At the end of the day, you don't need just the GPU because you need the whole service on top of it.
Today, I have the pleasure to have in the studio Dmitry Panenkov, who is the CEO of Emma. I interviewed him already last year, but I invited him again because things are going extremely fast in the cloud business and the AI business. So I had a few questions to ask. Welcome.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me again here in this beautiful studio.
It's a pleasure. So just for people to understand what you are building, Emma is now in its 4th year and you have 35 million euros of annual recurring revenue.
Yeah, that's quite correct, I would say. So in this ballpark.
Very good. So during the first interview, you explained to me how you're doing cloud management, how people can use data centers all over the world, gain efficiencies, gain better prices. But we talked before the interview and you told me that there's some new layers of service added to Emma.
Yeah, it's not only about the services that we constantly add into the platform, but also the tailwinds that help us to understand the right ways of implementing these features. And of course, there are two main tailwinds. The first one is a sovereignty topic, right? So with the latest geopolitical changes in the world, so everyone here in Europe is really concerned about the safety and security of their data and where the data is stored. That's the first topic that helps us a lot, where the Emma is a Luxembourgish company, and we help companies to get access to European cloud capacities and also mix that with the cloud services that bigger providers out of the US they offer, so you can still decide what you use and where you store your data. That's the biggest one.
And I imagine you can separate sensitive data who needs to stay in sovereign clouds and non-sensitive that you could store basically
Yeah,
anywhere.
so basically this is up to customer to decide because we do not have access to the data, but yes, in principle, you're right. And the second one and the bigger one is AI, I think, right? So everywhere is AI. We use AI, you use AI, everyone uses AI. So Emma has recently introduced the new feature in our platform where you can build up the logical cluster that sits on top of the GPU capacities or compute capacities of a cloud providers. So for example, you can mix 5 GPUs from AWS, 5 GPUs from Azure, another 3 from G-Core, build up your application on top of that, and use these clusters for the inference mostly. So that's what we have today on our platform. So if you experience a lack of a compute resources on the marketplace, especially the latest accelerators, you get access to them through our platform because you can combine the capacity of the providers.
Yeah, and for those who are not familiar with AI, I think it's interesting to talk about the current state. We know that big players like Elon Musk are basically buying any GPUs they can find. It's extremely expensive. I think it's more than $500,000 per GPU, more or less, I would imagine.
It depends. So $500,000 costs you the latest machine that has a system that consists of 8 latest accelerators of NVIDIA. So like B300. So you have the whole server, 8 accelerators. That costs around $500,000 per machine.
What I meant is it's super expensive.
It's super expensive.
And even if you have billions to invest, you hardly find those GPUs, which means that for fast-growing companies like yours, the real challenge is getting access to those GPUs. So basically, my feeling is your growth could accelerate now because cloud management is a great thing to have, but GPU management could be the next big thing.
I would say not the GPU management as such, because at the end of the day, you don't need just the GPU because you need the whole service on top of it.
Yes.
Right? So you want to have a possibility to choose the model, you want to have the possibility to choose the best available storage, etc., etc. So that's why the GPU itself doesn't solve your problem.
True.
So it's more like AI type of workloads management rather than the GPU hardware management. So that's why these layers of abstractions that we build and the other companies on the marketplace like CoreWeave, Nebius, G-Core, for example, they make a lot of sense because they enable companies to not only to get access to the GPUs, but also to run their applications on to train their models or leverage the GPUs for the inference purposes faster.
Yeah, and we did recently an interview of Shena Block from NVIDIA. She was in Luxembourg. The video is currently in validation in Silicon Valley. And it was very interesting to see that herself as an NVIDIA employee needs people like you or other companies to deploy properly, fast, because as we know, it's a technology that goes super fast. If it takes you 3 years to deploy, it's obsolete before you even get started.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Very good. So that's very good news for Emma and for Luxembourg. You were in the press in the last few months because of those banking stories. So maybe while I have you here, you were basically, your bank account was shut down in Luxembourg, which was ironic because you're the fastest growing startup. Was this solved? Did you manage to open a bank account in Luxembourg?
I would say, thanks God, last few months we were not in the news with regards to our bank accounts, because that finally has been resolved. So yes, we got our bank accounts opened with one of the biggest French institutions. So we do have the accounts there. Unfortunately, I mean, in Luxembourg, it's still work in progress. However, we finally found the right banking partner we're currently working with, and we expect our accounts to be open, like reopened in Luxembourg shortly. On the other hand, I mean, you told us yourself that companies in the situations like ours, they tend to use neobanks like Revolut. Ironically, 19th sanctions package changed this a bit, because even with us, Revolut, I mean, they got back to us. They asked the questions like, you're like Russian national, you own the business. We want to get a proof from you and from the company that you and your managers, they have a legal right to reside in European Economic Area. And it took, like, let's say, at least 10 days for us to get the things resolved, not because we do not have the right documents.
It's just the way it's processed.
It's just the way it's processed, yeah.
Yeah, I think an important question on what happened to you is this could be an experience that could be, of course, leveraged by the Ministry of Finance, which is just next door, is that basically the bank who opened the account for you in France is the same brand that will open it now in Luxembourg. And it's asked the question, why would this international group be able to do the KYC in France and not in Luxembourg? Because Luxembourg is supposed to be a leading financial center. And maybe it's too expensive, maybe it's too complicated, but these are questions to ask. And I'm sure Mr. Roth, our Minister of Finance, would like to know, why would a French bank be able to do better KYC than a Luxembourgish one?
I don't really think, and maybe I'm wrong here, that was the main issue. I think here in Luxembourg, and I mean the specific of the Luxembourgish banking system, especially with regards to this like French bigger bank, is that normally in Luxembourg you have the majority of non-operational banks. I mean the banks who do not hold your operational accounts. So they mostly invest your money. And I think the baseline here is that we got easier the accounts opened in France, is that they tend to work mostly with the retail customers as us with the operational accounts, while here in Luxembourg it's more about the saving, investment, etc., etc., etc.
Loans,
yeah, so
more risky operations.
Yeah, and on the other hand with a higher upside. So that's why I believe for this group it was easier, and it makes a lot of sense to reroute us from, let's say, Luxembourg to French one, with French branch, where they have enough capacity, where they have a lot of people who specifically work with the operational companies. And then when they've done their KYC, the local branch here in Luxembourg, they say, okay, so the majority of the things, they have been cleared, verified, etc. Now, despite the fact that we normally do not work with operational companies, we can start also doing our due diligence and to try to support this company and open the accounts. So I think that's the main reason, and not because of the lack of the capacity here in Russia.
I think it's a very important topic, and I will encourage you to talk, of course, with Laurent Mazar, of course, with Mr. Roth, of course, with Mr. Bob Kiefer. All of them, I know, would like to improve things, and they don't know where to start. This is maybe a case study, because if you were an unsuccessful startup, people would say, we don't trust him. But here, the numbers speak by themselves, and clearly Luxembourg needs to support your growth. So let's talk about that to conclude. 35 million ARR, where do you see it in 3 years to start?
We have a a financial model for this, right? So we want to hit a target of 150 million in ARR next 3 years.
Next 2 years.
Three. So
Okay,
we want to
years.
be, so we want to be at, let's say, 60 million next year, 100 million the year after, and 150 the year after.
So the question is, what do you need for that? What are the opportunities and the risks? Let's start with talent. Can you find enough talents to get to those milestones?
How normally this works. When you start your business, it's really hard for you to attract the top talents because you do not have a top talent, right? So normally the top talents, they attract the top talents because the top talents, they want to learn something new from the talents you already have. So likely we have already passed this stage. We have great guys there, top professionals in their specific domains, and that really helps us to attract the other guys. So we attract them everywhere in the world. However, we encourage them to come here to Luxembourg. And when they come here to Luxembourg, even from the other European countries, they realize that here we have, you've been to our office, right?
Next to CSSF.
Yeah, but it's beautiful, I mean. So.
It is.
Yeah, and when you see like the atmosphere there, when you feel it.
It's big, it's modern. It looks a bit like Silicon Valley vibe, and especially you had a food truck in front of the door, so it was really cool.
Now we have a golf there as well.
We'll have to come back.
Yeah, so when they see and they feel the whole atmosphere that people, they work, they solve the things, there are a lot of meetings happening, like they tend to come to Luxembourg more often, and then at the end of the day, they want to get relocated to Luxembourg. That's why when we started here in Luxembourg, we were like 4 people. Then, I mean, last year we were 12 people, and right now here in Luxembourg we're already 30 people. And these are not the new hires out of Luxembourg. We relocated a lot of people.
Very good.
And that's why the main idea for us, and we have decided to invest more in our R&D center here in Luxembourg.
Super cool. What do you need for that? We know stock option regime is not up and running. Can you go around this, or do you need it?
I mean, stock option regime is an important topic because when you surpass a certain stage of your growth and you need to attract like really high skilled professionals, they tend to look more into the options that they can get from a company aside of a base salary. Right?
Yeah, and of course, and it's AI talent, so I'm sure they get offers from US companies with wild salaries.
Yep.
We need a tactic to keep them here. If you don't have stock option, as it is the case now, do you have ways to motivate them anyway with some kind of a promise to give them shares, or how does this work?
Yeah, look, how it works with our company, we have agreed all together that we'll figure it out, how to properly nominate the top performers in our company, do certain grants that they, at the end of the day, they can get this stock options. And of course, we are all waiting for any like official decision on that point as well, because it is like super important for us being a Luxembourgish company to be able to attract these top talents and nominate them with that.
Very good. So if I understand properly, talent more or less under control. Capital, are you raising money again?
So we are in the middle of a certain funding round. As I think we had this conversation with you before, so how these funding rounds, they may be structured. This time we think there's going to be a mix of a venture debt and equity round to reduce the dilution of the shareholders.
Okay.
Right.
Very good.
So that's the main idea, and yeah, we are, let's say, at the final stage of finalizing the thing.
Yeah, you explained this in an interview you gave to me, which is on stripes.lu. It's still there with Jenna Helvin from TataWeb, that I recommend viewers who are interested in how to master the art of fundraising to watch this specific video. Anything else you need or you can provide to the state of Luxembourg to make it win-win?
No, as I said, I think, first of all, we already get a lot of support from Luxembourg. And I mean, it's not for me to blame anyone because Luxembourg has invited me and has supported me from the early beginning. So I really enjoyed being the part of this community. I still think that what we can do all together, we can build something like France has or United States has mastered, where there's an ecosystem where the bigger organizations, successful ones, let's say Luxer, LuxCargo, ArcelorMittal, they interact with the startup community, especially with the ones who really prove that they've made something tangible and that really matters. That would help the startups and the scale-ups like ourselves to get a first, let's say, big logo, or like second or the third, out of Luxembourg, and then we can use that as a reference afterwards to grow internationally. That's why, for example, we do believe that they believe that PwC, the PricewaterhouseCoopers, they had an EMMA means much and showcases how the things they should work. We have recently announced our alliance with the PwC, and we do believe that with this alliance, we got more credibility when we talk to bigger organizations who need a certain layer of a compliance, etc., etc. So I do believe this is something that we can improve here in Luxembourg, and this is something that is really needed by the smaller organizations or scale-ups at this stage.
Yeah, it's really the success of Mistral AI in France. Macron managed to convince all the big companies to team up with Mistral AI when it was tiny. It's the first time I've seen it. It worked. They got many contracts. They got the size, the scale. In Luxembourg, we are not there yet, and there's a specificity in Luxembourg, which is that the biggest competitor of companies like yourself, I will say it, is the state, because basically Post is at the center of any data center or so-called AI project. And of course, we need those short ways between highly specialized people like you and more bureaucratic public money institution to work more together, so that our cybersecurity, our efficiency, and our attractiveness for AI grows. So I wish you a lot of growth, and I will invite you again as soon as you hit 75 million.
Yeah, thanks, Emilian.
See you
Thanks
next
for having
month.
me.